Okay. So, good evening, friends. Today we are going to cover five important topics from current affairs, and these topics are important for this year's prelims examination. Okay. So, most of these topics are from environment and ecology and geography perspective. Okay. So, without wasting much time, let us go towards understanding these topics. So, I'll be sharing a screen of my laptop. Okay, with you. So, okay, just be there for a minute and let me know like if my screen is visible. Just a minute. Okay. So today we are going to discuss these five topics. The first topic that we are going to discuss is global warming alters rainfall patterns. Okay, we are going to understand how global warming alters the rainfall patterns. Second topic that we are going to understand is simultaneous cyclones in Arabian Sea. Third topic is heavy metal toxicity. Fourth topic that we will try to understand is ocean deoxygenation. And fifth topic is Atal Bhujal Yojana. Okay, these are the five topics that we will look into. Okay, so let us see what is the first topic. The first topic is global warming alters rainfall pattern. We will understand how the global warming alters rainfall pattern and why it was in use. Okay, so a recent study shows that the Indo-Pacific Ocean is warming at a rapid rate. Okay, so this is the context in which this particular news item is in news. So the thing is, what is the context? The context is, okay, just a minute. I guess my video is not being shown. Okay, please be online for a minute. No problem. I think that's working. Okay. So a recent study has shown that the Indo-Pacific Ocean is warming at a rapid rate and changes are impacting the global rainfall pattern. Okay, the changes are impacting the global rainfall pattern. So that's why we need to understand this particular topic. Okay, so let us learn about the findings of this study. Okay, what are the findings of this study? The Indo-Pacific warm pool, okay, a region of warm ocean between the Western Pacific Ocean and the Eastern Indian Ocean, has expanded twofold between 1981 and 2018 due to consistent warming. This rapid warming and increase in sea surface temperature has altered life cycle of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Okay, so while the Madden-Julian oscillation, clouds are spending lesser than usual time over the Indian Ocean, their residence time over the Western Pacific has increased. Okay, so this change could drift warmer surface water towards the Bay of Bengal and trigger cyclone activity during post-monsoon period. It could lead to reduced winter rain in the North India. When we talk about global weather patterns, okay, they have also been altered. How? Rainfall over the northern Australia, Western Pacific, Amazon basin, Southwest Africa, and Southeast Asia has increased. Now, there is a decline in rainfall over the Central Pacific along the west and east coast of United States, North India, Eastern Africa, and Yangtze Basin in China. So now let us try to understand this particular topic in simple words. Okay, so what do we now understand? That the global warming is altering the rainfall pattern globally. Okay, why that global warming is happening? Global warming is happening because of few reasons. Okay, one thing is, first reason is like Indian Ocean dipole. Okay, second thing is like Madden-Julian oscillation. These are the things. Okay, so now we need to understand that like what is Indo-Pacific warm pool. This is one of the thing. Okay, and second thing is we need to understand what is Madden-Julian oscillation. So Madden-Julian oscillation is a global band of low pressure area. When we talk about Madden-Julian oscillation, it is a global band of low pressure area, okay, moving periodically from west to east and determines the initiation and intensity of low pressure areas, depression, cyclonic and also overseas onset like monsoon onset under its footprint. So we need to understand that Madden-Julian oscillation is a global band of low pressure area. Second important thing we need to focus is it is disturbance of clouds, rainfall, winds, and pressure that traverses the planet in the tropics. Okay, so the thing is this Madden-Julian oscillation, it travels around the planet, like, you know, over the tropics only. Over the tropics means between 30° north and 30° south, and returns to its initial starting point in 30 to 60 days on an average. Okay, so the main reason for the global warming, okay, which is leading to alteration in the rainfall pattern, main reason mentioned here in this article is Madden-Julian oscillation. So in this respect, we need to understand what do we mean by Madden-Julian oscillation. So Madden-Julian oscillation is a global band of low pressure area. Then it is a disturbance of clouds, rainfall, winds, and pressure that traverses the planet in the tropics, okay, and returns to its initial starting point in 30 to 60 days on an average. Now let us move to the second topic for the day quickly. Okay, so we will understand the second topic. This topic is simultaneous cyclones in the Arabian Sea. We will understand simultaneous cyclones in the Arabian Sea. Okay, so we will see why simultaneous cyclones has been there in the Arabian Sea. Okay, we will try to understand this thing. Okay, so why it was in news? Because recently two cyclonic storms, they are named as Cyclone Kayar and Cyclone Maha. Okay, so recently two cyclonic storms, namely Cyclone Kayar and Cyclone Maha, have prevailed simultaneously over the Arabian Sea. Two cyclones have prevailed simultaneously over the Arabian Sea, and let us learn more about this news. So this event of simultaneous cyclones in Arabian Sea has occurred for the first time since 1965. So that is what makes this topic important. So this event of simultaneous cyclones in the Arabian Sea has occurred for the first time since 1965. When we talk about cyclone Kayar, okay, so cyclone Kayar, or Kayar was categorized, okay, as super cyclone. It was categorized as super cyclone and is second super cyclone to be formed after cyclone Gonu in 2017. Okay, so like cyclone Gonu, okay, it formed in 2007. Sorry, 2007. After then, this second super cyclone is cyclone Kayar. Okay, when we talk about remnants of cyclone Kayar, okay, remnants of cyclone Kayar has led to another cyclone which is named as Maha, which was categorized as very severe cyclone. Okay, so it was categorized as very severe cyclone. So it has also helped. Okay, it has also helped make 2019 the most active North Indian cyclone season. Okay, on record on the basis of accumulated cyclone energy. Okay, so the thing is, it has helped make 2019 most active North Indian cyclone season on record on the basis of accumulated cyclone energy. So we will understand what do we mean by accumulated cyclone energy. So accumulated cyclone energy is a measure of total destructive power of a cyclone season based on the number of days strong winds are observed. Okay, based on the number of days strong winds are observed. Okay, so then when we talk about increased cyclonic activity in the Arabian Sea, okay, when we talk about increased cyclonic activity in the Arabian Sea, what were the reasons for the increased cyclonic activity? The Arabian Sea is comparatively less prone to cyclonic storms than the Bay of Bengal due to the cold sea surface temperature, which is not favorable for the development and sustenance of cyclonic storms. Okay, for the development and for the sustenance of the cyclonic storms, we need higher sea surface temperature. But the thing is, because of lower sea surface temperature, the frequent cyclonic activity is not seen generally in the Arabian Sea. But recently, because of the global warming, because of the warming of the ocean surface, okay, the frequency of the cyclones has increased over the Arabian Sea. Okay, it is the usual course. In the usual course, there was an occurrence of one extremely severe cyclone in every 5 years. Okay, in usual course, only one extremely severe cyclone used to occur in every 5 years. in the Arabian Sea. But in the recent times, the sea has started receiving tropical cyclones of high intensity in a small time interval. Okay, why? Because the global sea surface temperature is increasing. Okay, now if we talk about further on this topic, for instance, in 15 years from 1998 to 2013, 5 extremely severe cyclones originated in the sea. In 2019, 4 cyclones have formed over the Arabian Sea. Okay, in 2019, 4 cyclones have formed over the Arabian Sea. The coastal areas surrounding the Arabian Sea are at specific risk since the geographical location offers cyclones nowhere to go but the land. Okay, so the thing is, when we talk about the Arabian Sea is an enclosed sea. Since of its enclosure, okay, so if a cyclonic activity is developed over there, so what will happen, that cyclone will make a landfall, okay, will make a landfall in the coastal areas. So it makes the coastal areas more vulnerable. Okay, it makes the coastal areas more vulnerable. So let us learn more about like what are the reasons behind growing cyclogenesis. Cyclogenesis means the formation of cyclone. So we will understand reasons behind growing cyclogenesis and formation of intense cyclones in the Arabian Sea. Okay. So when we talk about geographical location of the Arabian Sea and the global warming, okay, geographical location of Arabian Sea and global warming, increased carbon emission have led to warming up of Arabian Sea waters. Okay. So increased carbon emissions. So one of the reason is, okay, one of the reason for the warming of the sea surface temperature is increased carbon emission. Okay. Then unlike Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea receives very less fresh water from the rivers, which is preventing the cooling effect. Okay. Then also, more enclosed nature of the sea is promoting more evaporation and cloud formation activities, leading to more cyclones. Okay. When we talk about anthropogenic emission of aerosols, okay, anthropogenic emission of aerosols, okay, have increased sixfold. It has increased 6 times since 1930, leading to a weakening of the southwesterly lower level and easterly upper level winds that define the monsoon over the Arabian Sea. Okay, so this is the thing. So one of the main reason, you know, for increased frequency of cyclones over the Arabian Sea is anthropogenic emission of aerosols, and it has, you know, gone to an extent of 6 times, okay, as compared to 2000 like 1930 levels. When we talk about Indian Ocean Dipole, okay, Indian Ocean Dipole, which is an irregular natural oscillation of sea surface temperature in which the Western Indian Ocean becomes alternatively warmer and then colder than the eastern part of the ocean. A positive Indian Ocean Dipole brings warmer than average sea surface temperatures to the Arabian Sea and colder than average sea surface temperature to the Indonesia. It is an important information, okay, related to Indian Ocean Dipole. Here we need to understand that a positive Indian Ocean Dipole brings warmer than average sea surface temperature to the Arabian Sea and cooler sea surface temperature, okay, cooler than average sea surface temperature over Indonesia. So positive IOD means the western portion of the Arabian Sea, like western portion of Indian Ocean, means like Arabian Sea becomes warmer and the eastern portion of Indian Ocean becomes cooler. Okay, a negative IOD is just a reversal. In that case, what will happen? The western portion of Indian Ocean will become cooler, and the you know, like eastern part of the Indian Ocean will become warmer. So this is important to understand that Indian Ocean Dipole is an irregular natural oscillation of sea surface temperature. Here the sea surface temperature is oscillating. Sometimes it becomes positive, you know, warmer than usual. Sometimes it becomes cooler than usual. So this is what happens. Now, when we talk about wind shear, it simply means, you know, like when the winds are raising from the lower levels of the atmosphere to the upper level, okay, the temperature of the winds changes. Okay, so wind shear simply means changes in the temperature of the wind. Wind shear or the change in direction is and speed of the wind from bottom to the top of the atmosphere. Generally, this wind shear is relatively strong in the Arabian Sea compared to the Bay of Bengal, and it prevents cyclones from developing vertically. But with increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, this wind shear is weakening in the Arabian Sea, which is supporting formation of the cyclones. Now, if we talk about El Nino Modoki, okay, El Nino Modoki. So El Nino Modoki condition witnessed in the recent years changed the atmospheric circulation. What it does, it has changed the atmospheric circulation over the North Indian Ocean and creates conditions which are conducive for cyclogenesis in the Arabian Sea. Okay, so El Nino Modoki conditions witnessed in the recent years changed the atmospheric circulation over the North Indian Ocean and creates conditions which are conducive for cyclogenesis in the Arabian Sea. Okay, these are conducive for cyclogenesis in the Arabian Sea. Now let us talk about what are tropical cyclones. At the same time, we will see little, in detail about El Nino Modoki. Okay, so we will discuss about the favorable conditions for the formation of tropical cyclones. Tropical cyclones are those cyclones that generate in the tropical regions between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So all the cyclones that are generating in this region, they are classified as tropical cyclones. Okay, so the thing is, what are the favorable conditions for the formation of the tropical cyclone? One of the favorable condition is large sea surface temperature, which is higher than 27 degrees, 27 degrees Celsius. Okay, this is required for the formation of a tropical cyclone. Second important thing is presence of Coriolis force. Okay, we need to understand presence of Coriolis force enough to create a cyclonic vortex. Okay, we need to understand presence of Coriolis force enough to create a cyclonic vortex. After then, a small variation in the vertical wind speed. Okay, it is also important that there should be minimum variation in the vertical wind speed. Vertical wind speed should be, to some extent, should be stable. Then
Sir, I
other thing
have a
is
question.
pre-existing weak low pressure area or the low level cyclonic circulation is important. Then upward divergence above the sea level system is important. Okay, so these are the conditions, these are the favorable conditions for the formation of a tropical cyclone. When we talk about El Nino Modoki, okay, so El Nino Modoki is associated with strong anomalous warming. Anomalous means like it is not normal. Okay, so it is abnormal. Okay, it is strong, like it is associated with a strong abnormal warming in the central tropical Pacific Ocean and cooling in the eastern and western tropical Pacific Ocean. So El Nino Modoki is associated with the warming and cooling effect of the Pacific Ocean. Whenever you are hearing the keyword El Nino Modoki, you have to connect it with Pacific Ocean. Okay, temperature, anomalous, warming and cooling of the Pacific Ocean. So we will read it again. El Nino Modoki is associated with a strong anomalous warming in the central tropical Pacific Ocean and cooling in the eastern and western tropical Pacific Ocean. Okay, so in the central Pacific Ocean, the warming effect happens, and in the eastern and western Pacific Ocean, okay, and the western and eastern Pacific Ocean, what happens? The temperature is lower, it is cooler, okay, as compared to before. Okay, so the thing is, now let us move forward. Okay, so I can see you have raised hand. Okay, so I'll finish the topics first, then I'll hear from you. Okay, so let us understand the category of cyclones. Okay, what are the different categories of cyclone? One of the category of cyclone is super cyclonic storm. Okay, what we call super cyclonic storm, these are the storms whose average wind speed or wind velocity is more than 120 knots, or in kilometer per hour terms, it is more than 221 kilometer per hour. This is super cyclonic storm. When we talk about extremely severe cyclonic storm, it simply means that the wind speed should be between 90 and 119 knot. Okay, and in kilometer per hour terms, it should be between 166 to 220 kilometer per hour. Then we have severe, very severe cyclonic storm. Okay, these are the cyclonic storm where the wind speed is between 64 and 89 knots. Okay, or in kilometer per hour term, it is 118 to 165 kilometer per hour. Then severe cyclonic storm, in case of severe cyclonic storm, what happens? The wind speed is between 48 and 63 knot. Okay, and like in kilometer per hour terms, it is 89 to 117 kilometer per hour. Okay, when we talk about this cyclonic storm, it is between 34 to 47 knots. Okay, and in kilometer per hour terms, it is 63 to 88 kilometer per hour. Then when we talk about deep depression, it is the speed is 28 and 33 knot. Okay, in kilometer per hour terms, it is between 51 to 62 kilometer per hour. Then we have depression. So depression is 17 to 27 knot, and then uh, 31 to 50 kilometer per hour. Okay, so this is how we categorize. Okay, we categorize the cyclonic storms based on the sustained wind speed. Okay, based on the sustained wind speed. And the thing is, they are classified as super cyclonic storm, extremely severe cyclonic storm, very severe cyclonic storm, severe cyclonic storm, deep depression, and depression. Okay, so this is all about this particular topic. Okay, this topic is simultaneous cyclones in Arabian Sea. As you know, like in 2019, we have heard many a times that we have witnessed the cyclonic phenomena over the Arabian Sea and over the Bay of Bengal. So it is very important that you should be learning thoroughly about cyclones, about the wind speed of cyclones, about different types of cyclones. You should be learning about tropical cyclones. You should be learning about temperate cyclones. Here, since the Arabian Sea lies in the tropical region, so this particular article revolves around the tropical cyclone only. Okay, and we have learned about like what is the condition, what is the favorable condition under which the tropical cyclones are formed. Okay, we have seen that particular thing. And apart from this, we have also seen the classification of cyclones based on the wind speed. Then we have seen about some of the reasons behind growing cyclogenesis, like some of the reasons behind formation of the cyclones. They are geographical location of the Arabian Sea and the global warming. Second thing is anthropogenic emission of aerosols. Third thing is Indian Ocean dipole. Fourth thing is wind shear, means like vertical, like when the wind is moving in the atmosphere, from the lower level to the higher tropic level, what happens, it leads to the changes in the temperature of the wind. This is known as wind shear. Then it is also associated with El Nino Modoki. Okay, what is El Nino Modoki? It is a phenomena associated with abnormal raising of sea surface temperature, right, on the central Pacific Ocean, and cooling effect on the eastern and western Pacific Ocean. El Nino Modoki is associated with the strong anomalous warming in the central tropical Pacific Ocean and cooling in the eastern and western Pacific Ocean. Okay, this is the thing. Once again, I will reiterate what are the conditions for the formation of tropical cyclones. Okay, conditions for the formation of tropical cyclones are, it is important that large sea surface temperature should be there. Okay, at about 27 degrees Celsius. Then there should be presence of Coriolis force enough to create a cyclonic vortex. Then a smaller variation in the wind, in the vertical wind speed. Then a pre-existing weak low pressure area or low level cyclonic circulation is important. Okay, a pre-existing weak low pressure area must be there. Okay, apart from this, upper divergence above the sea level system, okay, must be there. Okay, these are the important conditions. Okay, conditions for the formation of tropical cyclones. Now we will move to the next topic. Okay, the third topic for the day. This topic is about heavy metal toxicity. Okay, so this topic is about heavy metal toxicity. We will understand about this topic. We will see why this topic was in news. Okay, a recent study conducted by CSIR. Okay, CSIR NEERI. NEERI stands for National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, Nagpur. Okay, it is located in Nagpur. Okay, CSIR is the largest chain of research institutes located in India. Okay, so they are autonomous bodies. They work under the Department of Science and Technology or Ministry of Science and Technology. So the thing is, a recent study conducted by CSIR NEERI. NEERI means National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, which is based in Nagpur, found that vegetables grown on the Yamuna River floodplain in Delhi contains toxic metals such as arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, and others. Okay, What are toxic heavy metals? They are arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, and others. Okay. So now we will understand what are the sources of heavy metals in soil crop system. Why soil crop system? Because recently the study that was conducted by CSIR NIRI, they have found that the vegetables that are grown on the flood plains, okay, that are grown on the flood plains of Yamuna River, they are contaminated with heavy metal toxicity. So that's why we need to understand what are the sources of heavy metals in soil crop system. Okay. So although heavy metals exist naturally, okay, heavy metals exist naturally also, it is an important thing I'm underlining. Although heavy metals exist naturally in the atmosphere, in recent times, their biochemical and geochemical balance have been drastically altered due to indiscriminate anthropogenic activities. Okay. So their biochemical and geochemical balance have been drastically altered due to indiscriminate anthropogenic activities. Now the industrial and domestic waste, okay, another important source for this soil, heavy metals in the soil crop system is industrial and domestic waste. Okay. What are industrial and domestic waste? Okay. So the thing is, metal contaminated industrial waste have been the main reason for the contamination of the soil and water in the last few decades with increasing mining and industrial activities. Another source is agriculture and livestock practices. Okay, agriculture and livestock practices is also a source of heavy metal toxicity. We will see how. Arrival of modern fertilizer and pesticides. Okay, arrival of modern fertilizer and pesticides have given a tremendous hike in chemical use. These chemicals are not natural and cannot be broken down easily. They slip down into the ground, mixing with water and finally ending up in our diet. Okay. So the thing is, nowadays what we are doing, we are using modern fertilizers and pesticides. So those fertilizers and pesticides may contain some portion of the, like chemicals related to heavy metals. So they also contaminate the soil crop system in the flood plains, okay, especially in Yamuna. Okay. Then when we talk about transport emissions, okay, so during transportation, vehicles release emissions that find way to soils by atmospheric deposition and petrol spill. So these are the sources of heavy metals in the soil crop system. The sources are, one thing is heavy metals are also found naturally. Okay, they exist naturally in the atmosphere, and industrial and domestic waste is other major source. Then agriculture and livestock practices is another thing. Then transport emission is another thing. Now let us talk about effect of heavy metals on food chain. Okay, what is the effect of heavy metal on food chain? Okay, the plant uptake of heavy metals from soil at high concentration may result in great health risk, taking into consideration food chain implications. Okay, so some heavy metals, okay, so I'm audible. Some heavy metals with their effect are listed below. Okay, some of the heavy metals with their effect on health is listed below. So I'll be reading these things for you. So let us see what are the heavy metals. Okay, what are those heavy metals? One of the heavy metal is lead. Okay, one of the heavy metal is lead. Second is arsenic. Third is mercury. Then dioxin. Then cadmium. Then fluoride. Okay, these are the heavy metals. You should be learning name of these heavy metals. Okay, lead, arsenic, mercury, dioxin, cadmium, and fluoride. These are the heavy metals. Okay, so like lead, leaded fuel and mining activities are common causes for elevated lead levels in the topsoil. Individuals exposed to the elevated levels of lead for short term may develop problems like brain damage, okay, gastrointestinal symptoms, etc. And long-term exposure causes damage to the kidney. Okay, long-term exposure causes damage to the kidneys, immune and reproductive system, etc. And when we talk about arsenic, okay, main exposure is through consumption of groundwater containing naturally high levels of inorganic arsenic, food prepared with this water, or food crops irrigated uh, with water high in arsenic. Okay, so intake of arsenic over a long period can lead to chronic arsenic poisoning. It can lead to chronic arsenic poisoning or arsenicosis. Okay, it is also known as arsenicosis. Gastrointestinal tract, skin, heart, liver, and neurological damage. Okay, it can cause neurological damage, diabetes, bone marrow, and blood disease. Okay, when we talk about mercury, main exposure route for the population at large is via eating contaminated seafood. Okay, when people are eating contaminated seafood, it lead to mercury poisoning. Okay, for children is direct ingestion of soil. Okay, this leads to central nervous system. Okay, so this leads to central nervous system and gastric system damage, affects brain development, resulting in lower IQ, affects coordination, eyesight, and sense of touch, damage kidneys, livers, etc. Okay, when we talk about dioxin, okay, human exposure to dioxin and dioxin-like substances like occurs mainly through consumption of contaminated food. More than 90% of human exposure is through food, mainly meat and dairy products, fish and shellfish. So dioxins are highly toxic and can cause reproductive and development problems. Okay, damage. It can damage the immune system also. It can damage the immune system, interfere with hormones, and also cause cancer. Okay, it can interfere with hormones and also it can cause cancer. Now let us talk about cadmium. So cadmium in the soil or water used for irrigation can lead to accumulation of plants that enter the human food chain. Cadmium may also accumulate in animals at levels that do not affect the animal's health, but can affect humans consuming animal products. Okay, the, the prolonged effects of low level cadmium contamination are chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay, this is an important thing. Okay, cadmium causes chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, renal tubular disease, okay, etc. Its accumulation may lead to renal dysfunction, lung disease, bone defects, diarrhea, and stomach irritation. Okay, these can be the effects of cadmium. When we talk about fluoride, usually associated with high levels of fluoride in drinking water, it leads to skeletal fluorosis. Okay, easy symptoms include stiffness and pain in the joints. Okay, these are the things. Okay, so let us conclude this topic. With the increasing industrialization, modern lifestyle, and urbanization, heavy metal contamination is of great concern. The sad state of soil water crop system needs regular monitoring, assessment, guidelines, effective legislation with strategic and policies to control heavy metal toxicities. Otherwise, in the near future, there will be severe complication imposed by the heavy metal contamination. Okay, so these are the things associated with heavy metal. So once again, we will reiterate what we learned about heavy metal toxicity. So recently a study was conducted by CSI and NIDI, okay, and they have found that the vegetation that are grown in the flood plains of Yamuna River, those vegetations are contaminated with heavy metals. Okay, what are those heavy metals? They have named few of them. Those heavy metals, they are arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, etc. Okay, what are the sources of heavy metals? Heavy metals are found naturally in the atmosphere. Second thing, in industrial and domestic waste are the sources. Third thing is agricultural and livestock practices, like where we are using high amount of modern fertilizers and pesticides. Then transport emissions are also a source of heavy metal toxicity. And how it affects the food chain. So the thing is, once it enters the food chain, what happens? It keeps on concentrating in our body. So it keeps on growing. Their level in our body keeps on growing. So what are those heavy metals? They are lead, they are arsenic, mercury, dioxin, cadmium, fluoride. Okay, these are the heavy metals that we find. Okay, so I hope you understood these three topics. Okay, the fourth and fifth topic, I will be sharing only the document with you, PDF document. You can read yourself. Okay, so I'll be sharing it in the group. So like any question that you have, you may ask now. I'll be available to answer your question. So yes, Sunita ji.
Sir, I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Hanji, my question regarding the coriolysis source. Coriolis force affect the equator and poles. When we goes from the equator to poles, which affect the Coriolis force. That means
Okay.
when we goes from the equator to poles, then Coriolis force behave. How?
Okay, it is known as Coriolis force. Okay, Coriolis force means, it is force because of the rotation of the Earth. Okay, when Earth is rotating around its axis, some force is generated. So Coriolis force is very high. Okay, where it is very high. Okay, when we go, from equator towards the pole, what is happening at the equator? The Earth is, rotating like this. So speed of the Earth at the equator seems to be less, but the thing is, like, the overall round made by something is very high. When we go towards the pole, what happens at the poles? Things rotate at very fast pace. Are you getting? At the poles, they rotate at very fast pace because, like, effective radius. Okay, effective radius like effective radius along the latitudinal line, they keep on reducing. Okay, so the thing is, Coriolis force is associated with the rotation of the Earth. Okay, so you need to revisit your basic sources like NCERTs. There you can see like how the Coriolis force happens. Like if you are moving from north to south, okay, what is the direction of the Coriolis force, and how, like, whether it is increasing or decreasing. If you're moving from south to north in the southern hemisphere, what is happening? If you're moving from south to north in the northern hemisphere,